Dan and Doris, thank you so much for accepting the invitation to share your testimony of how the Lord had been with you through the past year. One of the probably most intense years in your 34 years of being together. I understand you had a recent anniversary.
That's right.
Yes.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back at the beginning of this pandemic. We all kind of know where we were when we listened to the news about the new virus and so on, but then things started to affect people's lives. And as early as April last year, one of your dear sister-in-laws, ex-sister-in-law, which you deem as very dear to you as a sister, had been affected by this. How was it for you? What happened?
Well, in brief, we had been talking from the previous year. We had seen each other in August of 2019. Excuse me. The conversation continued, and in April, as a matter of fact, April 6th, we were texting back and forth, and she came out in her discussions about going to a church, and had been for several years. She said, "Oh my God, to think that I wouldn't be worthy of being saved and God wouldn't forgive me." And I told her, "Oh, Liz, that's not possible. He's forgiving." And then she realized and wrote, "To think that I crucified his son." And I said, "Well, we all do every day." But she texted one more time and had expressed wishes of talking to other family members in her family. And the next thing I got was a Facebook post from her brother in Maryland saying she had been taken to the hospital and she died before she even got there. We did not know. And no one knows if it was COVID, they're assuming. But soon after that, her own husband died 17 days later. He did have COVID. And that was very, very impactful for me because she was the sister I never had. Liz's death was like a culmination of a lot of things that had happened in my life. First, my brother 51 years ago, 52 this year now, but she knew him. And we discussed his life. Then my own father and my mother, and then Liz is gone, and I thought, you know what, God? I told her, we've been rebels in our own causes since we were young, and she said, yes, we have. I said, but now we know better. And I could not understand, why is it that God is, why all this death? Why don't you stop this? It was really a real situation that has drug on, but things have occurred since then that perhaps I might be able to share later on. But it was something that, wait a minute, this is getting too close to home. I don't know exactly what happened in that last summer, but I do know that I kept thinking, I got to stop fighting here because this is a losing battle. Work was diminishing. Other things were roller coasting, but in October of last year, while at our home, which we now have both of our businesses at home, Dan had a stroke. And it happened right before my eyes again. Wait a minute, what is going on? When we took him to urgent care, I was reprimanded and said, why did you bring this man here? He needs to be in the hospital. Well, fast forward from that point, after 3 days in the hospital, I kept thinking, what else is going to go wrong here? What am I going to do? And Dan would just look at me and just say, it's okay, I'm coming home. And I don't know what else Dan has to add about that, but I do know that I started feeling a shakiness inside and thinking, I can't do this alone. I need help. And there was not the help that I was looking, there wasn't help around me. I needed to fall on my knees and really look and say, God, this is getting out of control.
I had had occasions before where I faced my own mortality. But this stroke kind of put it into focus. And it changes your perspective, because now you realize that, hey, this isn't really about me. I've got to, I suppose that was the beginning of my searching in earnest for God, for His Holy Spirit. So it was kind of the beginning of the journey. And I remember somewhere in the Bible, it says, search and keep on searching. Ask and keep on asking. So I think that's what I've been doing since then. She had an employee. His name was Carlos. And he had contracted COVID, but he didn't tell us. And he came to work on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, early January. Thursday, he was too sick. He called in, I can't make it, I'm too sick. And she called him, Doris called him Thursday evening. He said, no, I can't come. Next morning, Friday, he didn't show up, he didn't call, so she called him, no response. His mother, who lives in Texas, had a habit of talking to him every day. She called Doris from Texas and said, my son is not responding to me, he doesn't answer his phone. Can you help? So, bottom line, Doris asked me to go check. I drove to his house, went upstairs into his room, and found him dead.
From that point, Dan called me and said, things don't look very good here. And he's not responding. And when he told me what had happened, I started to think, wait a minute, I've been feeling chilled all this week. So we called urgent care. They said, come for the COVID testing. We did the next Saturday morning. Sunday morning, I was called and said, you're positive. All that week, it was a struggle. I was struggling with breathing. I was struggling with clarity. It turned out that on January 18, my daughter ended up calling the ambulance, and I was taken to the hospital, at which point in the emergency room I was told, we're so glad you're here, you're a sick girl. And you have, you're contracting a pneumonia. We need to get this under control, and we're going to be admitting you.
She had sepsis throughout her body.
And without knowing what that all really meant, I was just relieved, and I just leaned back and I looked at the nurse. Nurses are wonderful, and said, I feel safe, I'm glad I'm here, help me. I was admitted, like I said, that night, and the following Wednesday night, talking to Dan, I had sensed that he was declining as well. I'm in the hospital, he's at home, he's not talking coherently to me. Turns out that he said he had lung problems. He felt that he was hurting. We had the ambulance called. My daughter called again and got him. And the interesting thing that the paramedic says, well, we've been there already. And she said, well, this time it's my stepdad. You got to go. Dan was on his way, and I was just thinking, God, what's going on here? I need to do something. I need to know what you're going to do, what's going to happen to Dan. And I was scheming to try to leave the COVID wing at the hospital and go down to the emergency room somehow. I don't know how I was going to get away with that.
Now you're COVID positive in the hospital. Dan is COVID positive at home. He's brought from home to the same hospital where you are.
Yes, and the wing that I was in, that COVID wing, is the old section of the hospital that overlooked the emergency room entrance. And I remember seeing the ambulance coming, but I never saw him. But he called me and he said, I'm in the ER. And I kept thinking, I want to go down. But I remember hearing in my head, Doris, you're useless. Get out of the way. Go to bed. I got to fix this mess. I know I heard that voice in my head because I then thought, but I'm trying to get down there. It goes, go to bed. I got to fix this mess. I kept hearing that. And when Dan called me, I said, I was told to go to bed and you're going to be okay. I just felt, if you're going to take us both, then take us both. If you're going to take one of us, take one of us. But I'm tired of this fight of trying to fix things and find the solution. And I went to bed. He was sent home that next morning by ambulance again because there was nobody to pick him up. And I was stuck in a room and I couldn't pick him up. The interesting thing about this whole thing is I kept hearing in my head, just stay in bed. Just, settle down. And I told Dan, I said, I think that the devil was trying to kill me. And this is why. When he told me that my former employee was dead, strangely enough, I had been talking to him for about a year beforehand about Jesus. And I would ask Dan, isn't that odd? I'm talking to somebody about Jesus and the cross and how he forgives people. I said, you're not going to catch me giving a Bible study to anyone. That's just not me. Well, apparently I had been, and I had given him a Bible. I don't know why. I had the Bible wrapped brand new, English and Spanish, for 16 years in my shelf. I went and got that Bible and I had given it to him. It was shortly after that that all this mess happened. And I said, Dan, I'm convinced the devil wanted to destroy you and me because somehow we were opening some information to a young man that turns out was quite lost in a lot of ways. I remembered what my mom taught us a lot, which was, vengeance is mine, God says. I'll take care of the evil. You just let me come in. I rebelled against Mom for many years. I said, no, I'm not going to do it your way. No, I don't want to. Why should I? But the change was the helplessness and the hopeless feeling. I had only one person to turn to, and that was God. I was at the end of my rope, and I was about to let go. And I said, no, I'm hanging on. And that night that I heard that voice, get out of the way, you're useless. I got to fix this mess. I saw like a side shot in my brain of Jesus. I can't say I saw his face, but I saw, like I said, I'm grabbing and I was hanging on for dear life. He says, if you want to come along, hang on. That's what I kept thinking and hearing in my head. And I told Dan, I said, I heard those words in my head. And he told me, I believe you.
You mentioned the idea of surrendering.
Yes.
And I think that's been a key too, is surrendering totally to God. That may mean surrendering 20 times a day, but constantly, okay, God, it's your will.
You've experienced agony, and even from a distance, given the circumstances, I've witnessed that. You've experienced that separation, talking about how you were in the hospital room, knowing that Dan is brought in, you couldn't do anything. You were by yourself. You were isolated. As opposed to how you used to be before, always engaged, always hands-on. But then at the end of that, you've experienced life. Both of you. Both of you have been healing over the past month and a half or so, 2 months now. Dan was talking about the healing from stroke. Looking back at these roller coaster events that you've described, what stands out most to you?
Life is very fragile. And I just feel that what stands out most is that no matter what I'm feeling or experiencing or thinking, all I do is think, God, help me. I don't know what to do. You know, what's this? You know, no, help me. So what stands out is just reaching to Him. I don't have to be kneeling. I don't have to be genuflecting. I don't have to be doing anything in particular like maybe churches teach people. I just talk at my desk. Something happens, I'll just say, oh, God help me. I don't know what to do. So what stands out is that I don't see an answer, but I see eventual solution to having a calm. I just say, I just want to be at peace. Please, God, I just want to be at peace. And somehow I have glimpses of peace, and that's what stands out in my mind. I just keep thinking, oh, okay. Maybe not instantly, but days later or hours later.
What stands out to me is the concept, you know, I have always felt that I've been in control of my life. And I really haven't. So it's just turning over total control to God and accepting what He wants. Is, you know, just get rid of all of self and go with God's plan. And that's what I keep searching for.
What a powerful testimony, and how uplifting that must be, both of you, in a stage of life when most people either cannot change or refuse to change. You both grew up beautifully in your own way, and yet within the past year you've been transformed so profoundly by God's Spirit. I love the experience that you share and how you now relate to God, especially you, Doris. Before, I know you had that kind of, Jesus, but now just chatting with Him so casually, so naturally, so organically. This could only be the Spirit of God. Thank you so much for taking the time to share such personal, vulnerable details of your journey with God.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.